This is the Solid Signal podcast for the week of September 14th, 2020. So, I'm recording this on Monday, September 14th, regardless of when you listen to it. So, this information is still pretty new to me. You may have had a couple more days to digest it. My question to you is, did you watch any football over the weekend? I did. Not a whole lot, but I did. And judging by the traffic on the Solid Signal blog, which this is always one of the busiest weekends of the year, there were some folks who had some technical problems, and hopefully you were all able to find the solutions that you were looking for. At blog.solidsignal.com, you'll find thousands of tutorials that'll help you out with not only DirecTV satellite problems, but any problem that you have for living your electronic life. There's also a healthy amount of snarky commentary by yours truly. So if you enjoy this podcast, you'll enjoy the blog. But I'm getting off topic. I watched a little bit of football here and there, and I gotta say, I will 100% give it to the NFL for producing good-looking games. Games that were indistinguishable from any other year. I don't know exactly where they got all of the sound effects, but it was kind of creepy how well that worked. And even better, I think, than it has worked for baseball. I think that you got great sound effects, you get great ambiance, and because of a combination of clever camera angles, I barely noticed that there wasn't a crowd there. As a matter of fact, for the most part, you couldn't even tell because they were really working very hard to not show the empty stands. Kind of brings up the question of whether or not you really even need people in the stands in football games or any major sport. I think that there's a benefit to the players. I do. I think that having that audience there, the fans watching, really kind of pumps them up. But that's not the question. The question is there any benefit to the rest of us? Because after all, we have been fed for many, many, many years this whole line about blackouts and how if stadiums aren't full, then games are going to be blacked out in their local areas. The NFL did away with blackouts quite some time ago, but other sports, most notably Major League Baseball, still have them. And that means there are some folks who have been unable to watch the abbreviated 60-game season over their regular channels because those games have been blocked out. Now, and some of them are using VPNs, and some are using the MLB packages, whether on satellite or streaming, and just choosing somebody else's commentary. But these blackouts, honestly, they're just a remnant of those days when there was no other way to watch a sporting event rather than going there. Oh, sure, there was radio, but ever since these games have been televised, it's ridiculous to think that you absolutely need to be there. And the truth is, most of the time, you don't get a better view. You do get a better experience because it's kind of communal and you get the electricity of being there, and that's important. But for millions and millions of folks who have managed to go their entire lives without ever having to watch a sporting event live, without ever choosing to do so, somehow they are still living full and fulfilling lives and not having done so. It raises a lot of questions because, you've got these very expensive stadiums, the new one in Las Vegas, the new one in the Inglewood section of Southern California, that are designed to become hubs and raise their communities up. Well, what would happen, I wonder, if all of a sudden you just couldn't go to the game anymore? Would it really make it worse to watch it at home? I don't think so. I think it would be really rotten for those communities, especially Southern California, which I'll explain in a minute, to have this kind of thing happen to them. Why do I pick on Southern California? Well, the thing about Southern California sports is it's been an interesting story all along. Several years ago, the new ownership and management of the Dodgers negotiated to bring their own channel online and then proceeded to price it so high that pretty much every cable system except for one wasn't going to carry it. Only this year did DirecTV start carrying Sportsnet LA, And that was completely unexpected. I never thought it was going to happen. But it was a consequence of the amount of money that was charged by the Dodgers for carriage on this particular channel. It made it impossible to offer the channel at a fair price. The same thing was true when the same company put out the original, it was called at the time Time Warner Cable Sportsnet. It's now Spectrum Sportsnet. But again, so expensive that nobody really wanted it. And these cities, especially the city of Los Angeles, which went without a football team for so long, has footed the bill for building these gigantic stadiums, not just building them, but policing around them, giving tax breaks to them. And it's unfortunate, I think, because there's this perception that it's going to raise the level of sort of the awareness of the city, that, its cachet, which I don't think the city of Los Angeles needs anybody to be more aware of it. I think that that's the case. But it's nice to have football in Southern California. I get it. I just wonder how much each taxpayer is paying for that, and if you'd really sat down and asked them if they wouldn't rather just have the money back. Stadiums could have been much more utilitarian affairs if they hadn't been built around the idea that somebody was going to watch the game. And, of course, this is all completely irrelevant because I'm sure by next season, everyone will be back to watching live sports wherever they want and being completely open about it. That's my optimism showing. But in the meantime, it just kind of makes you wonder how these gigantic monuments to public gatherings would fare if there just were no public gatherings. Anyway, that's about it for the podcast this week. I hope you have a good one. I hope that all the happy stuff happens to you and none of the unhappy stuff. And if you get a chance, subscribe to this podcast on your favorite aggregator. Spotify is out there, iTunes is out there, and about half a dozen others that you can find by looking at this podcast at blog.solidsignal.com. If you watch on YouTube, like and subscribe. It makes me look awfully good. It makes my numbers look good. I appreciate it. That's about it for me, and I'll see you again next week.